Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tuesday Talks. I'm Laura, I'm the founder of the Young Entrepreneurs of England. Can you believe we are officially on episode 3 of Tuesday Talks? It's come by so quickly. We have one more episode left next week where we are going to be joined by a very special guest who we will be announcing soon on our socials. So make sure you keep an eye out for that because it's going to be a goodie. But for this episode, we again are chatting with Amber Barry from Network Like You Mean It, who we have partnered with in order to bring you these episodes. But we are going to be talking about your elevator pitch, one of the greatest tools and assets you can have when entering a networking area or a networking event, or when you are speaking with somebody, or just when you are running your business day to day. Referring back to your elevator pitch or using your elevator pitch is a great tool to help you stay on track with who you are, what your business does, and the problems that you solve. So this is going to be an absolutely great episode. Make sure you listen to the tips and remember that these are just tips. They are not the definite way of creating an elevator pitch. You must do what suits your business best and the way you feel is right to create an elevator pitch. But remember, having one is very important and will help you out more than you know. So without keeping you waiting any longer, here's Amber from Network Like You Mean It. Hi, Amber. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Hi Laura, thanks for having me back. It's Tuesday again.
I know.
How quick did the weeks go? It's crazy.
Bye. Yeah, you blink and they sort of back at it again. It's just unbelievable.
I know. And we were just saying as well, like I was a little bit poorly last week. Now you're poorly. I'm still poorly. This change of seasons is not fun.
Not fun at all. Not at all. But I have to say, I tried to take Laura's tips last week into account. I went through my wardrobe, and this is maybe like the boldest pattern shirt that I have, besides like a bright orange one, but that's super summery. And I was like, I'm gonna have to put it on, and I think I need to go and do some shopping.
Because you did such a good job to do that for the call today, because I actually went to a networking event the day after we had Laura on last week, and I actually did take her advice as well. I had like a really bold printed dress on. Today I haven't taken her advice because I've just got like a plain top on.
You win some, you lose some. It's a baby steps that count. So
yeah,
Laura, I hope you're proud of us. We did give your advice a go, and to anybody else watching, definitely go watch some of our previous videos where we talk with Laura Coote, who's a personal stylist, and she helps us unpack how to dress or present yourself for a networking event. It was a great chat with her, so hopefully we'll chat with her sometime again soon. But for today, we are going to be talking about something that I know I struggle with, and I've had my sister help me, I've had my mom help me, and a couple of friends on board in putting together an elevator pitch for networking, or just to when you're speaking with somebody who asks you sort of what it is that you do. So I'm really excited to get into this one. Amber, I don't know if you want to kick us off on the first initial steps of your elevator pitch, or if you want to add anything.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll kick us off. So I think we're just going to go a little bit through the tips that are in the diary and planner. And in the diary and planner, there's a page in there with some tips on how you can nail your elevator pitch. And there's also a little section at the bottom that gives you a bit of an area to brainstorm some ideas. And then a little bit later in the planner, you can then actually begin to write it. So tip number 1 is aim for 60 to 90 seconds in length. So if it's too long, people might just lose interest. Their minds will just wander elsewhere. And I know a lot of people could probably talk forever about what they do if they love it. If it's something they love, like they can. But, you know, it's important that you've got to get to the point, you've got to be clear, and you've got to be concise so that the people that you are presenting to or speaking to know what it is that you do and what you're offering.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have to also, when we have to think of it in a way of when we watch a video, or when we potentially see an advert, or, you know, when we see something that grabs our attention, it's pretty much immediately. And so for me, your elevator pitch needs to be something that starts off and is concise, like you say, and gets to the point quickly, because the more you waffle on, you could potentially lose somebody. Even though your idea is good, you could potentially lose somebody just because you've waffled on, really. You know, people are, especially when it comes to networking and the corporate world, people are sort of, right, get to the point, let's go, let's hear what you have to say. And to me, it's better to say and get it over and done with quickly, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not saying don't do don't skim over things, but I like to be able to say something and I'm like, yeah, cool, that was nice, strong, bold execution of my elevator pitch.
Yeah, for sure. And people are so good at waffling, and everybody can waffle. I love that word, waffle. But yeah, it's important to keep it under wraps and try not to waffle. That's why you should really plan your elevator pitch to ensure that the waffling doesn't actually happen. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is use a hook to grab their attention. So an interesting statistic that's associated with your service or your product. So it can be facts or figures. So for example, Laura, for yours, it could be something like, did you know X amount of entrepreneurs in England? Did you know there's X amount of entrepreneurs in England and X amount of them struggle to market their business? And then you could go on to say a bit about what it is that you do and how you're helping them. So definitely just if you can bring in a fact or figures and just something that's going to grab their attention, so they're like, oh, I want to hear more about that. And it's got to make sure it's associated with your product and service, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great because I feel it goes back to the core of running a business, this elevator pitch. You need to tell the people the problem that you know your potential customers have and how you are solving that problem. So like you said, there are X amounts of entrepreneurs in the UK. This is how many struggle to get their business off the ground, or this is how many entrepreneurs fail in the first year of business. This is how we're resolving that kind of thing. And to me, definitely agree with that point. Your elevator pitch 100% needs to include something that grabs somebody's attention, and it's usually the problem that you're solving. And that's also why sometimes you may not, we've mentioned it in previous videos, you may not find that the person has reciprocated or has, what's the right word, has, you've not really connected with that person, and that's because it may just be the wrong person that you're talking to. It's not your ideal clients or the person of interest for your business. But having that hook and having that sort of statement in the beginning really clears out and helps you narrow down exactly who you need to be talking to. So I think that's a great point to have.
Yeah, definitely start off with it because you're reeling them in straight away then, and they're engaged and they're listening to you. It's just important to mention as well, like all the tips that we're talking about today, you don't need to have them in your elevator pitch. It's just pointers for guidance. So if you can get them all in there, that's great, and that's what would hopefully, you know, make a really great elevator pitch. But you don't always have to have all these in, because sometimes if you do decide that you literally just want to do 30 seconds, you might not be able to fit all these in. Right. So it's just some pointers and a bit of ideas on like where you can start with it. So tip number three, we'll just move on to a little bit, because you just touched on it then, Laura. You were talking about what problem are you solving. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that you communicate your USP, and by USP I mean unique selling point. So what problem are you solving for your customer? So make sure you say that. So if Laura, the problem that your customers are having, which are entrepreneurs, are that they maybe can't get their business off the ground, or they can't market it to enough people and that kind of thing. So you've got to be able to tell people in your pitch, this is what I'm doing and this is how I'm solving it.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are, it's so crucial to understand that unique selling point, because there is a few people out there who think just because they launch a business, it's automatic, because somebody else has been successful, theirs is going to be successful. And unfortunately, I see it more times than not. A lot of people are struggling out there, or struggling to get their business off the ground, because they don't understand the core foundations of their unique selling point, their ideal customers, and understanding that there is more to business than just having a product or a service. And one of those very, very important things in order to stand out from your customers and your competitors is your unique selling point. So yeah, 100% needs to be in there.
Yeah, and all products and service should have one. Like when you're initially setting up in the first stages, that's what you need to figure out. Like for me, there's so many planners and diaries out there, right? But my USP is that it's the networking diary and planner. But I was trying to look for one and I couldn't find one. And that's why I knew, number one, that's what makes it unique. And then number two, another thing that makes it unique is that you can get everything all in one place. Like, yeah, okay, some of the stuff in the networking diary and planner might be in other diaries and planners, like your weekly reviews, your monthly reviews, that kind of thing. But actually, that combining everything all in one place, that's another unique thing. So you really just need to be sure about what it is that you're solving and make sure you communicate that to the people that you speak.
And I think, you know, just to add on that, if some of you are feeling a bit confused on how you can figure out your unique selling point, the best thing to do is grab the old school ways, grab a pen and paper and write down what makes you different, and potentially write down 1 or 2 to 3, I would say, competitors and their standout points. And from there, you'll be able to start comparing what makes you different and what is similar to the other people. Like Amber said, she is the only diary planner for networking, and that's one of the big things that makes her unique. I've not found a networking diary before, and I'm about to go and purchase one of Amber's purely for the fact of I need a diary for networking to help keep all my networking, you know, events that I go to, the people that I meet. We just spoke about our calendars, you know, writing you know, meetings or potential meet and greets or coffee dates that I might have. I need a diary that fully encapsulates all of that, and Amber's and Network Like You Mean It is that solution for me. So it is super important to make sure that you understand those selling points, because that's exactly what they are at the end of the day. They're your selling points, aren't they?
Yeah, that's it. And I would say, like you said, get a pen and paper out and do a good mind map. Who doesn't love a mind map?
I know.
I love a mind map. Yeah. So you just need to brain dump everything to do with your business on a piece of paper, and you will get there. You'll, like you say, especially if you're looking at your competitors, like, what do I do that they don't?
Yeah.
And how can I portray that to everybody and sell what it is that you are doing? So yeah.
Yeah.
Right, on to tip number 4. So make sure that you explain who you are and what qualifications and skills that you have. So you just need to say a little bit about yourself and your background. So it's almost sort of like backing up why you're doing whatever you're doing and what you're doing. So, you know, you've got to have that sort of justification in a way. You know, I know everybody says you don't need to justify yourself to anyone, but actually, you know, when you're trying to sell something, yeah, you do. You need to justify why you're doing what you're doing and what it is you're doing. And also, like, why you've got the skills to be able to potentially sell that service or to create that product. So that is a really, really important thing that you need to include there, because that builds trust from the people that you are, you know, speaking to. That then they can have that bit of an idea, like, oh, this person's got a background in X, and now I understand why they're doing X. So
yeah, Amber, I completely agree with the qualifications and all of that. But one of the things we've spoken about on the Young Entrepreneurs of England website, which especially is important for young entrepreneurs and young business owners, is you need to somehow show, especially somebody who's got a bit more experience than you, that you are credible and that they can trust you. And that's why, like you said, having those qualifications and showing what you've done and showing a bit of experience in what you're speaking to that person is important, because that's how they can build trust in you. And believe it or not, a lot of people are using young business owners more now than ever before, because of the fact that we are so skilled and are able to learn things so much quicker, because we've come from a time, especially me and you, Amber, when there wasn't really technology, and there wasn't really what we have now, but we constantly have to adapt, and we always will. And as young entrepreneurs, we constantly have to adapt and have to learn. And so building credibility can be really difficult when you're younger. So if you have qualifications or experience on your side, I'm not saying that it's a make or break, but if you have it, it's definitely important to include it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also important to remember that, you know, there's certain jobs out there that require qualifications, right? You know, if you're going to be a doctor, lawyer, that kind of stuff. But then there's jobs that people do that really, where I view, and I'm sure a lot of people do as well, view their experience as, you know, as good enough. You know, because it's not necessarily that you need that qualification to be able to be good at the job. If you've been doing something for like 10 years, or, you know, I would say, like, I've been networking since I've left uni. So for me, like, I haven't got a qualification in networking, but I would say I'm really good at it. And I just think it is important just to remember that just because you haven't got something that says I got X, Y, Z at A level or whatever, it doesn't mean you are less credible.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
So tip number 5, you've got to make sure that you know your audience and avoid industry jargon. So if you're in, for example, healthcare or tech, there might be so many different abbreviations and people won't know what they mean. So you really need to be careful with sort of what kind of words you're saying, what abbreviations you're saying, because people will just lose interest, or they'll just be, as soon as you say an abbreviation and they don't know what it is, then they'll start thinking, well, what's that? And then they won't pay attention to whatever else is you're saying after that. So you need to be really careful about just being clear and actually spelling it out to people.
Yeah. I think it helps you become a bit more relatable as well. As much as you want to come across as this person who's got it all together and knows all the industry terminologies and jargon and all of that, at the end of the day, people like somebody who they can just relate to and who they can just feel comfortable with. So maybe you have found yourself using a lot of terminology and jargon and abbreviated words in your elevator pitch, and yes, it may be good for something like an actual investor, but when you're talking to somebody at a networking event or something like that, it might just be a bit more helpful to you to soften that a bit and to become a bit more relatable and a bit more less corporate to the people who you're talking with, because like I said, we all like somebody who we can just get along with and feel comfortable with. So
yeah, no, the main thing is that you just know your audience. If you're in front of them people that are going to know that, and that, then that's completely fine, because that's going to impress them. That's going to be like, yeah, that person, that person knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But if you're in front of an audience of people that don't necessarily, work in your area or know the sector that you're in, then yeah, you do need to make sure you're spelling it out to them. Great. Fab. So I think we're on to tip number 6. I think, yeah, I'm getting mixed up with all these numbers. But well, so we are on number 6. So be passionate. I cannot express this enough. People feed off passion. If you can't be passionate about your own service or product, how can you expect others to be? And you just need to make sure that when you are sort of doing your pitch, that comes across in however way you want to express it. Everybody's different, whether that's smiling your head off or like it's body language, but people should be able to tell from the way that you're speaking that you're passionate about what you do. Like it should come through, like your face should light up when you're talking about it. Yeah. So yeah, be passionate. I'm sure you would agree on that one, Laura.
I do agree on that. And it's not to say like go over and above to be this bubbly person or anything like that. Definitely keep true to who you are, but like Amber said, it's that passion and that light in your face and the way that you speak about what you're doing that is important. So it's not to say switch your personality to try and be this big bubbly personality. It's just to say show passion and show the love that you have for what you do in the way and how you speak to people, because it truly does come across.
Yeah, definitely. Passion. Be bold and be passionate.
Love it.
Yeah. Right, next up. So include a call to action. So it could be something like register your interest on our website to get news and updates, or book a meeting with me to find out more. You need to give people something to do, otherwise they'll probably just forget. Unless they're really eager, then they'll hopefully will come and talk to you. But if they're sort of on the fence, if you give them some sort of call to action, then it gives them some guidance on what to do next. So if you're telling them to register their interest on the website to get news and updates, that then means that you've got someone else for your data. Data is key, we know that. Yeah. So you've got someone else in your sales funnel. maybe they're not quite sold on it yet, but you've got them in the sales funnel and you can sell them through your marketing and through your newsletters. Or if it's book a meeting with me to find out more, then great, you've probably got them in the palm of your hand if they come over and they're like, let's get a meeting in. So get a call to action in there, really important. If you do any of these, I would say that's one of the top ones.
And in person, would you say that potentially hand out a business card or ask for their business card? How would you sort of curate a call to action when you're in person with somebody face to face?
Yeah, well, that moves on to the next tip, Laura. So I've said, like, have your business card ready. So it's a physical takeaway for them to remember you by. And some people do actually like to collect them as well. Like, I love receiving them. And I think that's because that means I get a bit of an idea on the branding of the business, especially if it's something that I've never come across before, or you've not seen it on a presentation or anything like that. Then you get a bit of an idea on what they're all about by receiving the business card. But then once I've had them, it's sort of like, I love to receive them, but at the same time, I don't want loads. I don't want to clutter up like my mind or my desk or my mess. Like, that's how I work. So this is one of the reasons why I put it in the diary and planner, but there's a industry address book in the back of the planner, which means once I get a business card, I can then go to the address book and say if it's someone that works in marketing, I go to M in the address book, and then I can put in all their details. And again, like, everything's all in one place then. And then, I can either keep the business card if I want, or I can just put it in the bin because I've already got their details. So yeah, I say what you were saying, Laura, with, making that call to action and doing it in person. Yeah, give a business card for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. And would you say, I know this is quite, I guess you could say, just devil's advocate here. Would you say business cards are still quite popular, or because there is so much like back and forth between having business cards? This is a bit off topic, but I think it's something great to discuss. Would you say something like pamphlets or having a brochure or something like that at a networking event is important?
I think it's totally down to the business itself and what they stand for, what their values are, what it is they specialize in. For me, it would be take a business card, but also take a copy of my diary and planner, because obviously you want people to look at it. So It's really like comes down to what's relevant to what the business is. I know there's a lot of talk around sort of, being sustainable for the environment and, paper and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of people sort of doing digital business cards these days. And it really is personal preference. People have come to me and said, well, are you going to have a digital version of the planner? I said, well, yeah, probably will. Because there's some people that don't want to do pen and paper. Yeah. But I think it is down to personal preference and also what sits right within your business. Like, what are your values? What's your brand all about? And what it is you're offering. If you're offering something that is a product, maybe it is good to have a catalogue for people to look at the products. If it's a service-based business, not as necessary. Point them to your website. So yeah, it varies really, I think.
Yeah. Great. I think that's great advice. And again, sometimes why it is quite difficult to be a young entrepreneur or a business owner is because a lot of the decision making is up to you, and you have to go with what feels right for you and your business. And that's why it's important. And having an elevator pitch is probably a great way to put your business in a hole and see it from above. And it will help you sort of with so many things and so many decision making. It's like a decision-making little package as well. You can revert back to elevator pitch. What is the problem that my customers have? How am I solving it? What is my call to action? How does the passion come into that business, and looking at as a whole in order to decide, what suits your business best.
Yeah, you need to have an elevator pitch, like, without a doubt. If you're going to go networking, it's something that you need to nail. As we were saying before, nail your elevator pitch. So there's only 2 more tips that I would recommend. So one is end with an open-ended question. So for those of you that don't know, an open-ended question is a question that cannot be answered with yes or no. So this really helps the person to engage in a longer conversation with you. So for example, I could say something like, tell me, I'm eager to know, how do you currently manage your networks? And then that can then go into a further conversation with that person, and they can talk to me about how they manage their networks. And I'll then can say something like, well, have you thought about this? Or look at my diary and planner. This is what this can do for you. You know, if you can get them into a bigger conversation that can make, you know, maybe potentially talk to them further about what you're offering, then that's really important.
Yeah, and it keeps them with you a little bit longer. And that way they remember you more as well, because the longer the conversations, the more in depth you go, the more you talk about things that are of substance to them as well as to you, the more you will be remembered. And that's one of the most important things at a networking event as well, is to be remembered, and to not get sort of lost amongst the bunch of people that are there. So love that tip, actually, an open-ended question. I think I'm going to add that to mine.
Yeah, the longer the conversation also means that you're building that relationship.
Yeah.
So it's all about building relationships.
Yeah.
And last but not least, final tip, practice, practice, practice. So time it, read it out loud, you know, memorize it, practice in front of a mirror, look at your body language, practice with family and friends. Just make sure that it sounds natural and not too rehearsed. They are just really important tips that you need to do when it comes to practicing. I don't know if you've ever tried, Laura, to practice in front of the mirror, or I know you were saying earlier about I think we were talking about it earlier, but you saying about getting your friends and family roped in to help, and I'm pretty sure my friends and family are really sick of me like yapping in their ear, but it's good to get their support with it for sure.
It is. And you know, I used to practice orals for school and stuff like that in front of the mirror. I've never practiced my elevator pitch in front of the mirror, which I probably should. But it's I think just with you saying, speaking to family and friends, it's also quite important if you have that, in order to speak to somebody else, to get used to, you know, some people are like, oh, I'm too shy to speak to my mom or my dad or my partner or whoever it is. But you need to get comfortable with, and I've just spoken about it on our Instagram posts today, is you need to get, growth only happens when you're uncomfortable. And so you need to get comfortable being able to speak with someone who you are comfortable with, kind of thing. So it can seem uncomfortable to stand in front, sort of like an oral reading to your parents or whoever it is, but you have to get comfortable doing that. It's so important to, I don't use this word so much, to get comfortable, to get cozy, to get warm and snuggly with your business, the elevator pitch, and what you stand for. I think we've pretty much touched on that in every single episode that we've talked about. It's so important to have a great understanding of your business. I know that's one of the things that I struggled with in the beginning, is I was like, oh, I'm everything all at once. And you just can't be. So an elevator pitch is a great way to, like I said before, get really concise and understand your business in 30 to 60 seconds. It's a great tool for networking, for advertising, for marketing, for whatever it is. An elevator pitch can help you through so much.
Yeah, it definitely can. Maybe we should think about, Laura, just had a little idea come to my head. Maybe we should do a little elevator pitch comp.
Oh,
with the Young Entrepreneurs of England. Yeah. Maybe we'll have a think about that one in the background, eh?
Yes, definitely. But while we're on the topic of competition, we must just remind you all that we do have Amber's first edition Network Like You Mean It diary up for grabs. Amber, do you just want to tell us a bit more about Network Like You Mean It, just retouch on it, as well as what the second editions that's just gone on pre-sale?
Yeah, so it's the only networking diary and planner, and it will just help you manage your connections on a day-to-day basis. You know, you can plan your networking events, your meetings, like your coffees that you were saying about before, Laura. You can do your industry address book in there, and there's loads of tasks like around your business. So again, about an elevator pitch that we talked about today, there's just loads of little tasks there that will help you as well define who your target market is. I could literally go on forever, but you can check it all out on my website, which is www.networklikeyoumeenit.com. And as Laura said, yeah, we've still got the competition. We decided to extend it a little bit, didn't we? So hopefully we'll get a few more of you entering for the first edition copy.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that was great. I think I've learned something from this, and I think like I said, these talks have been so helpful for me as a just sort of reevaluating me also as a person, because at the end of the day, I'm the face of the business. So bright prints, I don't know, I need to reevaluate that, because of black and white prints, I don't know if that's so much, but it's a print nonetheless. But also my elevator pitch, definitely a couple things I can take from here that I need to add in. So thank you so much, Amber. This was great.
No problem. Feel free to send it me if you want, and you can practice with me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I will see you next week with a very special guest who we will be announcing on our socials very soon. So make sure you keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Laura. See you next week.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.